All right. Well, we actually have some people in the chat and they are getting engaged. So look at that, guys. One little call out and you got people engaged in the chat. So people in the chat, if you have any comments on any of these questions, feel free to give your comments down below and I'll try to inject them into the podcast. The next question is from RCS Career Questions, Computer Science Career Questions. The title is, I may get fired for being too quiet in meetings. And they say, does alcohol or drugs help? Project manager wants me to talk more, but I have nothing to say, probably because of my social anxiety. We have another meeting tomorrow. I have never tried alcohol, but I'll drink 2 beers. We'll see how it goes. Okay. I'm going to go with a no on the alcohol and drugs during work. This sounds like a terrible idea. This is a really bad idea. I would say alcohol and drugs during work do not help. Drinking 2 beers, especially if you've never tried alcohol, this has to be like a meme post. This can't be real. But I'm going to treat it like it is real because that's how we do it here. So I may get fired for being too quiet in meetings, and your solution is to drink alcohol while on the job. You say that your project manager wants you to talk more, but you have nothing to say, probably because of your social anxiety. What I would do if I was in your situation is I would start taking really good notes. So if you're not taking notes already during these meetings, take notes. And maybe even volunteer to be the person that takes the notes for the meeting. So in a lot of my meetings, if there's not anything else being shared on the screen, I'll have a draft email in response to the meeting up with my notes. I'll be taking notes throughout the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, I'll give an outline. At the end of the meeting, I'll take action items and do a recap. And that's one of the ways that I inject myself into a meeting whenever I'm not maybe necessarily the focal point of the discussion. Because the people that are having the main discussion, they're going to want to focus on the discussion. So if you don't think you have as much to say, you can help out by helping run the meeting by taking notes and action items. And then the other thing I'd do is, while you're taking notes, be thinking throughout, even if you're not necessarily the one that's the lead that's supposed to be responding to questions, be continually thinking at the same time how you would respond to those questions and, thinking about how other people are answering and responding to questions, engaging and saying, oh, how would I have said that the same or how would I have said that differently? And that might help you then eventually work up the confidence to be a more active vocal participant in your meetings. But I would say adding substances to encourage yourself to be more participant in meetings is just not a good idea. And I think that making yourself mentally a more active participant through taking active notes and using strategies on how you evaluate how other people are speaking in a meeting is a much better route to go to make yourself become more engaged in meetings. And if for example, if you're meeting virtually, if you have your camera off, maybe turn your camera on. But yeah, no alcohol and no drugs as a way to be more active in meetings. Let's check the comments on this one. I'm curious what people had to say about this. Sorry, this post has been removed by the moderators of RCS Career Questions. Moderators remove posts from feeds for a variety of reasons, including keeping communities safe. Top comment was, I strongly advise against this, but if you do it anyways, please update us with the results. And then someone said, all caps, do not get drunk for your first time for work. And this other person said, yeah, what helps is preparation. Look over your agenda or any other documentation so that you can come up with questions or comments on your own time before the meeting rather than feeling pressured to come up with a question or a comment on the fly when the discussion is taking place. So do your time. And this person prompted another great idea. If you're coming into the meeting and you're looking at the meeting time, like, what is this about? Reach out to the meeting organizer and make sure that, hey, how do you anticipate me engaging in this meeting? What are you expecting from me in this meeting? And that'll help you prep for meetings as well. All right. So that's some much better advice. So I'm glad I included that. I'll say one more bit of advice. I'm going to steal from somebody else. They say, play it like bingo. If one of your questions is already addressed, cross it off the list. If you think a point hasn't been fully answered, feel free to revisit it to get that last bit of juice out of the orange. So if people are discussing something and you don't feel like they've gotten to a full resolution, feel free to bring the conversation back and point out why you didn't feel like there was full resolution. And then the worst case scenario, this person says, is that on your bingo card, if everything else gets checked off, then it's a successful meeting in your eyes. But if something's missed, then you had the opportunity to come in with your questions and contribute to the meeting. So shout out to Harbinger311. I think I've given them shout outs before. They give some great advice in response to these questions, and shout out to them. Also shout out to Dylan Alexander in the chat for saying that I give great advice. Thank you, Dylan, for your engagement. And there's your shout out in the podcast. Yeah, we got a couple people live in the chat. Thanks for watching this segment of the Engineering Success Podcast. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. All those things really help me out. They boost me up in the YouTube algorithm, and they'll help other people see this great content. Make sure to recommend the podcast to your friends. You can listen to it on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts content from. And make sure you leave me 5-star reviews, like all my videos, and consider subscribing on Patreon or Anchor. All those things help me out, and I really appreciate it. Catch you in the next one.
Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.